Good morning, Gardenia! Happy Wednesday. Big show today. We have trouble in Keene, trouble in Georgia, trouble in Mozambique. We had a great guest coming to cover the story of the Keene Six, the arrest of some friends of mine. Just to start this off, to tease ahead for today's show, the Inc. link is our first link. If you want to check out the links for the show, they are available exclusively at t.me/Adam versus the man, where we have our Telegram broadcast channel, and you can get, where is it? t.me/Adam versus the man. Yeah, but there it is. ABTM public Telegram channel. Check it out. So a lot of links today. Big COVID block. Great guest, the Reverend Captain Kickass from New Hampshire, one of the co-hosts of Free Talk Live, is joining us on the top of the hour. The headline from Manchester Inc. link: FBI descends on Keene. 6 people facing federal charges in connection with Bitcoin. 6 New Hampshire residents are under federal indictment in a scheme that enabled people to exchange more than $10 million for virtual currency such as Bitcoin. And, you know, you hear a number like that, you're like, wow, these activists in Keene are getting rich on crypto. And, you know, some of them are doing very well, but this is not it. An exchange, if you manage the exchange of $10 million, what's your, I mean, even PayPal wouldn't take more than 3% of that. Not that that's chump change, but even if it was 3%, $300,000, a lot of money, but this is over years, apparently. And this story, I mean, we're going to be, like I said, we're going to be hearing from their contact on the outside right now. Free Talk Live co-host Captain Reverend Captain Kickass, excuse me. The 6 arrested were Ian Freeman, formerly Ian Bernard, 40 of Keene. We know Ian Freeman as the main brain, him and Mark Edge, at least, behind Free Talk Live. Very excited to have been interviewed and been interviewed by both of them a number of times. Colleen Fordham, Renee Spinella, Andrew Spinella. Those are the 3 I only know barely or of. And then nobody, formerly Rich Paul, awesome cannabis activist, now going by Nobody. So nobody for governor of New Hampshire, nobody for president possibly. And Aria DeMezzo, formerly James Baker, who we have interviewed on the show as well, 34 of Keene. This is the trans Republican sheriff candidate in New Hampshire. DeMezzo is the self-described transsexual Satanist anarchist who ran as the Republican candidate for Cheshire County Sheriff in 2020. She lost. Both Freeman and Nobody ran for governor. So yeah, this is what they're getting accused of is wire fraud, participating in a conspiracy to commit a wire fraud. Ooh, that makes it sound really bad, right? Freeman is charged with money laundering, operating a continuing financial crimes enterprise. Freeman and DeMezzo also were charged with operating in unlicensed money transmitting business. The indictment alleges the business violated federal anti-money laundering laws and regulations. And this is not the first time we've heard of charges like this. Our friend Thomas Costanzo in Phoenix dealt with similar charges, did few years, actually, 2.5 years, significant time for selling crypto on localbitcoins.com. And when they say, you know, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, unlicensed money transmitting business sounds. What is a money transmitting business? Well, and then what does this mean for, you know, the freedom of money? If you're not free to do what you want with your money, how can you say that you have freedom? And in this case, money, what is it? A money transmits. And it sends out money, transmit money. But that's not really it. And it's just, what this is exposing in a very powerful way, as if people didn't already know who wanted to, is that these are the limits of what you're allowed to do with your money. And this is really important. This is a kind of civil disobedience that tens of thousands of Americans do. You know, this is like the everything has become criminalized. The average American commits 3 felonies a day, and most of those are just financial. We're not talking about smoking pot. That's not a felony anywhere anymore. I don't think. I hope not. In some places, selling still is, and it's like, what can you do with your cannabis? Well, you can't give it to someone else for money. That's against the rules, or you need our permission. And that's that. This is, it's another layer of taxation and regulation for government to control the money and get their cut. It's not just, hey, you can't do this. It's, you need our permission. Oh, what do you need to get our permission? You need to give us some money. You need to give us some licensing fees. Yeah, so really excited about this. We're going to come back to this story at the top of the hour. In case you were wondering about my change in attire, this is Adam in cold weather working clothes. This is hopefully our last cold morning of this spring chill, this sudden storm. But yes, we are going to cover the. We had so many COVID stories today. We have 3 COVID blocks. We have COVID fear, COVID vax, and COVID enforcement. A lot of good stuff. And we have that story in Galveston. We're going to be coming back to with Stephen later that he was so keen on sharing. But as you know, probably by now, unless this is your first turning on the internet this morning, and if it is, thank you very much. We appreciate that. There was a big shooting. 8 people dead in Georgia, in Atlanta area anyway. So we're going to come back to that. And it really is actually COVID related and a product of COVID fear, unfortunately. Or at least it looks that way. We don't want to speculate too much. But for now, let me just say, go to Jim. Comment Jim Freedom, now executive producer Jim Freedom, producing the show an hour earlier, 2 hours earlier every day by Arizona time, coming to you live 8 to 10 a.m., roughly 8. We're live within a few minutes every day, 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific time. And check it out. Jim, producer notes.
What's going on? I don't have anything as far as notes go. The show seems to be going well. I can just run us through the promotions. So as you were about to say, please visit Adam versus the Man. If you do that, I'm going to show you here what it's going to look like. You're going to go to Adam versus the Man. Whoops.
We need to update that photo, man. Like all my stock photos are still me with the buzz cut and the trim.
Yeah,
beard.
we got to get you with some hair. You can make the same pose, but do it with the wild hair. Yeah, and the beard.
The hair is, yeah. Well, so I know this is really nerdy, but like and it feels vain to even talk about my hair and beard as much as we have on the show lately. But I'm growing my beard out to a specific shape, and it's not there yet. And I love my hair at this length, but it's gonna keep going. So I don't know, like, what is the new look of Adam with his hair grown out? I know what it is for the beard, more or less, actually, and it's like 60-70% there. Some trend, but don't worry, it's not gonna be like huge. I'm not going. It's just you'll see. I don't know. This is too vain for me. I don't like this. But the hair on the top, like I'm never gonna keep going with it, but I don't know like where it stops. I don't know where I go. Okay, this is the look or a look. Get your picture taken. Replace the website picture. This is what you look like now. This is your new brand, Adam. Like I don't know what that is for the long hair. It might be ponytail because that's like the most convenient. But I like, and it's going through this like so. Yesterday, I had to go to Walmart. There's someone in Gardenia here. We need to get a new cell phone, and it was just Walmart. Get it right on my plan. Added. It was the easiest way. And while the guy helping us out it recognized me, and I was wearing this, and I'm like, and I had my hair like, I mean, just not like George Tsoukalos almost, just gnarly, like, and I'm like, God damn it, I'm trying not to get recognized looking like this, but now like this is the new look apparently. Mountain Man fur, yeah. Well, thank you, healthy disrespect for authority. It's it's not helping with the cold. At least I don't know. It'd be a lot worse without it, I guess. I see a Wayne static hair thing going on, something like that. All right, back to the promos.
Just be ready on the topic of the long hair. I'm sure you're already aware it's brutal during the summer. So, I think it's good. It's brutal if you don't do anything. But I've found you just keep your hair wet, man, and it's like a constant cooling rag. You know what I mean? You got to keep it wet though, while you're out working in the sun and everything. And then it's still, even down here in the valley, when it's 120, you can wet it all you want. All you feel is hot water on your back. It doesn't really help that much, but it does a
Yeah,
little.
see,
But
people. I mean, I will never hesitate to remind people, when you think of Arizona, you don't have to think of just Phoenix and saguaro cacti. Okay, there's skiing in the mountains. There's skiing an hour east of me in Flagstaff, probably right now, and I'm an hour in west and 2,000 feet lower than that, but we still get snow. And so where we're at, it's consistently about 20 degrees cooler than Phoenix. So when Phoenix, your freak temps, I mean, you have like consistent freak temps where you hit the 120s, low 120s, right? Over the
yeah,
summer.
115 to 120. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a freak spike. Your consistent summer shitty time is like 100 to 110, right?
Yeah, 105 to 110. Yeah.
So for us, like our freak spikes here are low 100s. You know, like once or twice a year here, it'll get over 100. But our like uncomfortable summer temperature, which only lasts maybe 2 months, it's like highs in the from 80 to 90. It's not like, oh my God, I got long hair, I'm gonna bake in the sun. If anything, it's a natural cooling thing. I think about like the man dresses, the dishdashas that Arabs wear in the desert. It's because it creates like cool air and deflects sun. If I had the buzz cut, the sun would be hitting my skin, and I wear a hat anyway. But
Right.
assuming state of nature, all of that, there's some benefit of this. It's like insulation for your head, hot and cold. The heat hits the top layer of hair and doesn't penetrate, right? At least that's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah. Yeah. At least some of the neutrinos bounce away, I'm sure.
All right, so what else do we have to plug today?
Okay, so when you're at Adam versus the Man, you can see right there. I'm gonna go ahead and demonstrate it for you today. Here's my cursor. You see, you're on the web page. See, this is the button we're always talking about that says Patreon and Cigar Federation. You click on Patreon right there, and it brings you right to the places where you can support the show with your monthly donation. Of course, $1, $5, $10, and $50 a month is where it's at. $10 a month is what gets you access to the private producers club that we all talk so much about. So if you're interested in joining the private club instead of the public club, that's where you can do that. And then once you go back to adamversustheman.com, there's another button right next to it that says Cigar Federation right here. Click that, watch the magic that happens. It takes you to a website where you can pick from hundreds of exotically flavored, whipped cream flavored, all kinds of delicious cigars for you to choose from. And I almost forgot, I got to do this too. Use the promo code Adam10 to get 10% off of your entire order there. Anything you order, ADAM10 in all caps gets you 10% off. So that's a great deal. Check them out. Our affiliate program, Cigar Federation. Then after you're done with all that, for a little bit of relaxation, you can go ahead and check out the Instagram that the Garden of Freedom has. Check out everything that Adam's up to in Gardenia up there. You can see he added a few new photos just recently. Some beautiful scenery pictures of Gardenia up there. This is the most recent. Adam is recruiting for a bunch of things. So if you go to the Instagram, you can definitely check out this graphic and read more about what it is he's recruiting for. And if you're interested, hit him up at adam@thefreedomline.com and get yourself involved.
And let's get Steven up here. We have a very exciting producer announcement today that you kind of skipped, right? Is he not with us? No. Oh, hey, there we go.
I'm here. I promise.
All right, so today after the show, we have a very exciting workshop, virtual workshop, and it is technically open to the public. We don't want people to just sort of click in. We really are focusing on the producers club for this. But if anybody wants to join the producers club and then join the workshop today, you can. And there are two really amazing things we're doing with this workshop. CJ Abernathy, our former executive producer who developed the production formula for this show, is going to be giving a StreamYard class on how to produce Adam versus the Man. So we have some backup producers. People can rotate in for cover for Jim without, so CJ can keep focusing as CEO running the business of Adam versus the Man. And we're also training co-hosts, because the new plan for co-hosts, and this is so cool. I am actually really excited about this, that we get to do a rotating cast of co-hosts. We're probably going to have something, and flexibility. Steven is our co-host team captain, is going to get to oversee this, but something like 5 badass co-hosts who rotate Monday through Friday. And I think they're going to compete for who gets to be the co-host on Friday's show, the Good News, the Cutting Edge of Good News episode.
Fun show.
We're going to leave it to Steven and the team that's coming together today after the show to figure out the details of the rotation and blah, blah, blah. But the co-hosts are such an important part of the show, because it's how we connect with the audience and get comments up on stage. So we've got a producer on the mixing board, so to speak, controlling the production, on-screen graphics, all of that, who's on, who's off. But then the co-host is watching comments separately, because you can't do this show, the way we put it together, requires 3 independent brains working simultaneously in harmony to make it work right. And it usually works mostly right on most days. But we got the producer, we got the host, and then the co-host today, Steven, on the comments. And there's a separate comment stream that looks at all of your comments. This is one of the, like, StreamYard, really cool, intuitive, easy to use broadcast software. I mean, even Jim knows how to do it. And it's got it converges. What's the word? It combines the comments from all the different streams into one. So that's why you see, Steven, you want to do a little sample here? And we'll point this out to people. Like, put up one comment from Facebook. All right, is anybody commenting on our Facebook stream? It's kind of like a back broadcast.
Let's,
David
I don't see
Sisho
anything.
did.
Well, I do see a few things on Facebook.
So there it is. So there it is. You see on the what comes up with your comment is your Facebook profile picture, and there's a little F in the lower right corner there, and that's how you know it's a Facebook comment. So David Cisco says, their sea of laws, their currency, their world, exchanging their money brings your actions into their world. Indeed. All right. So then give us a YouTube comment, and you see there it's got the little red triangle play button in the corner instead, and that's Maria Evans saying good morning, Maria, and she's going to be joining us. So basically, right after the show, like we do most days, we do a little post-production debrief. But today we're going to be transitioning to our StreamYard / co-host workshop afterwards. And anybody who wants to join us, I mean, if you didn't get your stimulus and your credit card's fucked up and you're a regular listener of the show and you really just want to jump in on this, okay, send Jim an email at some point. You'll see it before the end of the show. Yeah, Jim. Yeah, now it's on Jim. Jim at thefreedomline.com. Thank you. There you go. Sweet. See how easy that was? Just like that. All right, Steven. Both of y'all, anything you want to add before we get to Steven and comments and our top stories? And oh my gosh, it's going to be a heavy day today, guys. Anything else you want to say about the workshop?
About the workshop, I expect to see some pretty cool people come out. One of the things I like about the workshop and the way that we're doing the co-host now is we bring some diversity, right? So it's like I can talk guns and mental health, and I can talk a little bit of certain type of laws. But like when you're talking about international law, you might want an international law guy to come on and do the co-host.
Now, Steven, my like grammar Nazi just came out, or I guess it's my definitions Nazi. I'm not a grammar Nazi. I really don't care about grammar except to be clear and communicate what you mean to communicate.
Yeah.
But definitions more important. Diversity. We have 3 black people, 3 Hispanics, 3 white people, and 3 Asians, and 3 Filipinos, and 2 of each, like Noah's Ark. We have that. Is that the diversity you're talking about? No. What I'm talking about is that there are more important things than if you say we need racial diversity. And I'm obviously you're not saying that, but for the people who say we need diversity and they imply racial or ethnic, and they don't say what they're doing is they're sort of taking over the word diversity, and I really kind of resent that. But it's also saying that race is the most important thing to be diverse about. Let's have diverse races of everybody who thinks exactly the same. So now you have zero thought diversity or ideological diversity or background diversity or intelligence diversity. Like, hello. And so I would tell you, Stephen, as the definitions Nazi, see,
Hell commas.
hail commas. Yeah. No. Hail. But what's the definition Nazi slogan? Hail Webster.
Sure.
Hail Webster. Hail Merriam-Webster. Yeah, so I think what you would say ideological diversity. I mean, we're all people who believe in the core of the message. Well, ideological diversity, a little perspective diversity, and certainly background and ethnic. And this isn't to say that ethnic experience is unimportant, but it's if you make it the most important reason to select people, you might be missing something. But there is some ethnic diversity, and it's nice to be aware of that and see that. But what did you mean when you said diversity, Stephen?
just the backgrounds of people, right? I don't know a whole lot about international law. I don't know. I am probably the only motherfucker on the face of the earth that's not a infectious disease expert, because COVID happened and the next day everyone got a fucking doctorate in infectious diseases, and I'm sitting here going,
Yeah. Well, Stephen, I want to throw out a challenge for the development of the co-hosts team, because geographical diversity in perspectives, I think, is extremely important in what we're doing for the mission of this show, right? I'd rather than ethnic diversity of 10 people from every ethnicity, whatever, here in Gardenia. I mean, I'd rather have 5 white dudes who are all over the world, and can give us a global perspective where their perspectives are actually different. And I know we have some pretty enthusiastic supporters in the Producers Club who are international. We have at least a few in Europe. And I know we have a couple American expats, I think, in Asia, who are at least Producers Club, if not in the club. We have one guy living in Thailand, and I think another somewhere in Southeast Asia. But our European supporters, our club members, I know we have one in Germany, and I think one in England, and one in France, and one in Spain. And I'm not saying that I'm not necessarily calling on them to step up, but when it's just me and Jim here in the garden, now we got Phoenix, Gardenia, Georgia represented today. But I want to see that expanded, and I don't pretend, like, for people who know like the scope of this show, I don't pretend that I'm not coming to you from Gardenia in Arizona in this like walled in United States of America conversation. But I do want the show to be at least global in its awareness, if not its perspective. And that takes a lot of work, because you have to incorporate other perspectives, and you can only really be one perspective yourself.
Yeah. And so I want to challenge the audience real quick. I'm going to go over some comments because they've gotten pretty hilarious as of late. Real quick, post where you're from, where you're at right now. If you're in Germany, Germany. Get as specific as you want to get, and I'll get to that in a second.
Give us your address so we know where to send the drones.
Or your neighbor's address, if they're a dick.
If you just want to be entertained, yeah. Drone swatting now.
I got really upset. I read an article, I think you saw it. There was a police department that was telling people to stop throwing beer bottles at their drones. And when I found out it was satire, I was super sad.
That might have been a fake. I don't know if it was a joke, but the picture was, and it could have been photoshopped, was really good, looking down, and there's a beer bottle. Like, I posted this with, not all heroes wear capes. You can see the cameras pointing down. There's a beer bottle in the air heading up to it.
So Craig, when you were talking about hair, he got a little offended and said, "Bald guy here, can we talk about something beside hair?"
Style your pubes.
So Healthy Disrespect for Authority said, "Craig, check your ears. I bet there's some in there." And then Craig informed him that, yes, I found it.
See, this is like, the gender trade-off that humans experience that gives men the advantage in our youth, right? We have hair on our heads and our faces. And silly women have to walk around barefaced their entire lives. It's like as kids, we both have hair on our heads and none on our faces. Then as adults, we have hair on our faces and heads, and men have the advantage. But then men lose the hair on their heads, but get to keep it on their faces. And I think that's still better. I mean, if I had to choose one or the other, facial hair or head hair, I'd go with facial hair. Easy.
So cut your head hair off and put it on your beard.
No, I think women should do that. I think women would look more, manly if they took their head hair and glued it to their faces.
I'm not attracted to manly women though, so.
But you still sport the that military facial hair cut down to this. You're a skin face. It's like skinhead. That's the term. We needed that. Did I just come up with that? Someone must have thought of that before me. You're a skin face. It's a pejorative term like skinhead. You're a man trying to look like a woman to serve your military masters, you cuck.
We call it being a pink chin.
Say what?
We call it being a pink chin.
Pink chin.
Well, the problem is, like, after 2 weeks, I just look like I'm on meth.
No, it's like if you have no facial hair, you're a skin face.
So I want to address something real quick. Kimberly said, I want to be a co-host. Okay, Kimberly. I'll reiterate it real quick. Join the Producers Club. Tell us that you want to be a co-host. And then, CJ, there will be a class. There will be a test at the end of the class. I run a tough class. Be there or be square. And we'll go from there. But you're going to join the Producers Club. Let us know. We'll put you in the co-host chat. You'll get a login for the backside of StreamYard, and we'll go from there.
All right, so let's jump into our COVID blog, Stephen. We'll see if we can get to your Galveston story.
Can I hit this real quick? We got a guy from Chicago, a guy from South Georgia, New York City, Salt Lake. I don't know the fuck how to pronounce that. Pilsen? Pison?
Pilsen.
I don't know where Pilsen is. Where's Pilsen, dude?
Pilsen neighborhood. That's Google.
I think MA is Massachusetts. This dude's Kimberly Wood is on her bed in a sunny state.
She's in Florida, I believe.
Okay.
Audrey was in Germany. All right. Nice. Keep them coming. We'll see who can be. We get the furthest away listener today. Furthest from Gardenia. Cheyenne, Wyoming. R.L. Strange. All right. So, Jim, I feel like I got to hit this pipe one more time before we jump in our block of misleading medical information, because we do have to start with a major downer story. So go ahead, please, play us into some COVID. In the TV show The Boys, one of my favorites, it's a sort of superhero comedy tragedy. You can torrent it. That's how I watched it. There's a scene where they portray the lone gunman who shoots a random person because of their ethnicity, and he goes and he shoots a convenience store owner because he thought his eyes flashed yellow like one of those mutant superhero types. And he says, "Are you a super terrorist? You're Muslim looking and you have powers." And in that show, they portray the escalation of that ethnic fear. And when I saw that, and I feel kind of silly now for not like recognizing it more in context while watching the show, because I thought it was almost silly, cartoonish, so simplistic as to be unrealistic. But the human story in modern society, even in ancient society, of ginning up fear of outsiders, resulting in a lone crazy gunman going on a rampage, is tragically rich. And so today we see the story, and it might be speculative as to the exact motives, but we will see. There will be more stories about this. This is a new story that we will be talking about for at least a few weeks. I think it's going to be a while before this one is analyzed and understood and chewed up and more relevant information comes to light. The Daily Mail has this headline: Nerdy gunman 21 who loved guns and God is arrested after shooting dead 8 people, including 6 Asian women, at 3 massage parlors in Atlanta in 200-mile, 3-hour rampage. So right away, the average American following the news probably, like I did, makes the connection, makes the jump. Well, maybe this was Kung Flu fear. Maybe this was fear of Asians related to COVID. There appears to be a specific, although this is a very superficial, immediate connection that we are led to make the way this is being presented by the media. There are plenty of other possible explanations. And it's important that we stay skeptical both of what we are being told here and of our own tendency to make presumptions. So, Robert Aaron Long, 21, was arrested on Tuesday night after a 3-hour manhunt in Georgia. He is accused of first opening fire at Young's Asian Massage in Ackworth, 30 miles northwest of Atlanta at 5 p.m. He allegedly killed 4 people there, then drove to Atlanta and opened fire at Gold Massage Spa. Police were now... This is, the driving, the significant driving over, like, in between shootings. This is one of those things that just coming to understand the story and the distortions that we're going to be presented with it is going to, this is going to be really fascinating, because right now we're getting this news summary glimpse of what happened. Police were called to a report of an armed robbery at Gold Spa and found 3 Asian women dead. While they were there, the cops received reports of another shooting across the street at Aromatherapy Spa. Police found the final victim at Aromatherapy Spa across the street. Long was already on the run at 8 p.m., 3 hours after the first shots were reported. Long was arrested on a road in Crisp County, 150 miles south of Atlanta. A motive of the killings is yet to be revealed, but they come amid a spate of hate crimes against Asian Americans. Now, it doesn't sound like a rational guy trying to do murder robbery, right? You think, could he be covering it up? Could it be like, well, everybody's hating on Asians right now, so if I go attack some Asians, it'll be written off as a hate crime, as opposed to, who knows, if it's revenge or if there's some connection between the victims or something else. But it also, when there were 2 victims apparently that were not Asian, or at least not Asian women, we don't know. More, like I said, more is going to come out about this. But for now, the details are almost, not worth getting into, because they don't really tell this story of wanting to understand. There's a lot in the details about how government is responding. The stuff about the victims. There is so to the meat of this article. As more details emerged about the sequence of events that took place on Tuesday afternoon, more information also came to light about the suspect's life. tagline on his Instagram account: pizza, guns, drums, music, family, and God. This pretty much sums up my life. It's a pretty good life. A student who went to high school with him in 2017 told the Daily Beast Long was keen on religion but never seemed violent. Quote, he was very innocent seeming and wouldn't even cuss. He was sort of nerdy and didn't seem violent. From what I remember, he was a hunter and his father was a youth minister or pastor. He was big into religion. A youth pastor at the Crabapple First Baptist Church confirmed he was the suspect in the shootings, while reports said he had actually attended the church with his family while his mother would organize events there. In a 2018 video for the church, which had been deleted by Wednesday morning, Long had reportedly talked about his faith and described how he found God after hearing the biblical story of the prodigal son. By the grace of God, I was able to draw the connection there and realize this is a story between what happened with me and God. I ran away living completely for myself, and he still wants me, and so that's when I was saved. So there's a big tendency to jump in a situation like this, to make connections to things that you don't like about his past. If you don't like guns, you're going to look at this guy and say, see, gun nuts. Those are people, those bad people we got to watch out for. If you don't like religion, you're going to say, oh, religion, irrational people, who go by mythology and, God, or he's a focus on the family. That sounds like focus on the family, like that right-wing group, or Pizzagate. No, I don't know about that. As Weston chimes in the comments, they've been prepping this anti-Asian hate for 3 to 4 weeks now here in New York City. That's interesting. I'd be interested to know what they're doing in New York City. That's such a celebration of the melting pot of America. I guess if you don't like drums, you're gonna say, I should have been a guitar guy. Drummers are fucking weird, and they're the ones that turn into shooters. Yeah, that makes sense. No, but it was 7 women, 1 man. So I guess at least from this we can already say one of the women was not Asian. So they're confident from the security cameras that that it was the same shooter at all the incidents. There was a pursuit about 150 miles from Atlanta. State troopers caused the suspect's Hyundai to spin out of control till Long was stopped and detained. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's because he had a Korean car. And I don't know. I mean, this is someone who does this, and is not rational, right? Like this is really important to keep in mind. This is someone who is disengaged from reality. So expecting some rational explanation is not a reasonable way of looking at this. But we can look at it and perhaps hope to understand what drove him to this insanity in the first place, and then why his insanity was manifest this way. South Korea's foreign ministry said diplomats in Atlanta have confirmed from police that 4 of the victims who died were women of Korean descent. A Korean consulate was working to confirm their nationality. Craig says, as a longtime Christian, nowhere in the Bible does Jesus say to kill. We are to love one another. You can say that, sure, and that's your interpretation of the Bible, but you would have to admit that the Bible has been interpreted differently, successfully, and used successfully to convince a lot of people of other interpretations to kill in the name of the Christian God. So there's a possibility of a connection there that everybody's going to be picking apart in this. And I mean, I don't think it's fair to associate any of these things until we really understand more from the shooter himself. And since he was taken into custody, it may be that we're going to get to hear from him. He may lawyer up and keep his mouth closed and just say, well, I had to go to jail to have this positive. Like there's some weird possible rationalizations in some of those darker corners of the internet where if you think, well, if people of this ethnic group are a threat and I kill some of them and scare, well, at least well, they're not really human, so killing them is worth it. And if it scares a bunch more of them into hiding, then it means that less of my people are going to be subjected to their presence, and that's going to save lives. And I just saw an opportunity. I was ready for it, and this is my life. I am a martyr, and I'm gonna just go to jail and shut my mouth for the rest of my life. I mean, that could be where this goes. I hope not, because I hope that we do. Have an opportunity to learn from this and hope to prevent it. West End, it is a new Asian spin on the Helter Skelter they've been pushing, staged probably. Yeah, and so there's a good chance that a lot of this whole story is fundamentally fraudulent, right? Because there's so many. I mean, and you can't discount any of those theories because we live in a world where people who control billions and trillions of dollars are willing to kill to protect their wealth and power and engineer society to their vision. What do you think wars were about? Hello. So that they would make a shooting like this happen, and who knows how, or that they would push deliberately until something like this happens, whatever. But I mean, you cannot. You can discount the possibility in an individual case, like, no, this was organic. There couldn't have been any other. Like, it's not an MK Ultra thing, right? Whatever. But overall, you cannot discount it, because for the reason that the people who have billions at stake around an event like this are unwilling to kill, or haven't done it in the past, and that they are capable of making things like this happen. I think that's kind of far-fetched. I doubt in a situation like this that they've got this guy brainwashed and triggered and programmed, and then he goes and does this. But sometimes the randomness of the insanity would suggest something even beyond the thoughts of an actual organic shooter in a situation like this. But here's the backdrop, and this is why this is a Corona story. From Los Angeles Times, Yahoo.com, Asian Americans have been verbally and physically attacked, shunned during pandemic. Study shows you've been trolled, weighs in. It's clear this kid was smoking the devil's lettuce. Marijuana, yeah, they're going to say he smoked pot once or something like that. Or at some point, somebody's going to try to blame pot. And that's, it's really interesting to think that there is a whole other, potential layer of motivation for something like this to happen. And I'm gonna jump ahead for a second here, because we had that COVID story about Asian Americans being discriminated against. We're going to come back to that. But Jim, if you jump ahead to the second to the last story in the stack from FBI.gov, we almost got to cover this yesterday. FBI releases a report on Nashville bombing. And basically, well, here it is. The investigative team took diligent steps to determine the reason or reasons why Warren decided construct and ultimately detonate his device in downtown Nashville on December 25th, 2020. The FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit, based in Quantico, Virginia, further assisted the local investigative team in answering this question. Based on analysis of the information and evidence gathered throughout the investigation, the FBI assesses Warren's detonation of the improvised explosive device was an intentional act, an effort to end his own life, driven in part by a totality of life stressors, including paranoia, long-held individualized beliefs adopted from several eccentric conspiracy theories, and the loss of stabilizing anchors and deteriorating interpersonal relationships. Now, they wouldn't, even with that, you have to add the background of most of a year of COVID lockdowns. They say loss of stabilizing anchors and deteriorating interpersonal relationships. Did he lose his job? Was he part of a victim of the forced unemployment shutdown? And there's this whole other layer of fear from events like this. Remember the Nashville Christmas bombing? Do you remember? Downtown Nashville. Maybe it was to take out an AT&T building. Who knows? And there were other things about that. But even on its face, you go, you're kind of missing the point and the blame here. Why are so many Americans stressed out right now? Why are so many Americans desperate? I mean, maybe not right now after stimulus payments hit yesterday, but even there, not everybody got them. You don't have at least a foot in the system. You didn't get a check in the mail or direct deposit, you might still be hurting. And even if you did, for a lot of people, for a lot of Americans, that $1,400 check went straight to bills, right? Why were we not able as communities to look out for each other, to take care of individuals in situations like that? Not allowed to meet face to face. Just there's a whole layer of shittiness in America today, in the world, around the government's response to COVID that is not being properly accounted for, and this is a big part of it. And the spreading of the fear. Think about how much better society would be. And even before COVID, it's not like there weren't people who would occasionally get pushed into mass shootings, right? It's not like this wasn't a thing before COVID. But right now, there are a lot of stories we don't cover on the show because they're little stories, right? Just this incident or that incident. But it seems like, and is my filter, I try not to share those because I'm aware of my own bias in my filter. Am I picking stories? Do I remember stories? Am I presented with stories that maybe reinforce my worldview rather than present objective statistics? So I do sometimes, if I wanted to cover that, I might look for that. So to this story, since coronavirus shutdowns began last March, thousands of Asian Americans have faced racist verbal and physical attacks or have been shunned by others, according to a study released Tuesday. The report by Stop AAPI Hate documents 3,795 racially motivated attacks against Asian Americans from March to February, noting that the number is likely a fraction of the attacks that occurred because many were not reported. The group formed last March in response to attacks related to the perception that Asians were responsible for the coronavirus because of its origins in Wuhan, China. Even that is only alleged, as far as I know at this point. The group did not collect data in previous years to show whether attacks against Asians have increased during the pandemic. About 68% of the anti-Asian attacks documented in the study were verbal harassment, 21% shunning, 11% physical assault. Now, the funny thing about the shunning is everybody's doing some kind of shunning right now. Oh, you go to a gym? Well, then I can't come hang out at your place because it's going to be a petri dish of germs, and I'm going to get COVID hanging out with you. But if it's clearly singling out of Asians, that's different. About 9% of the attacks were civil rights violations, such as workplace discrimination or being refused service at a business. Nearly 7% of the attacks were online harassment. Most of the incidents occurred at businesses or on public streets, more than 2/3 reported by women. And I by the way, I think there is a certain bias there. And I don't know, just a theory I'd like to throw out here, that and most of these attacks, if they're for that mind, if it's a man or a woman doing the attacking, they're not looking for threats in an objective way. They're looking for an opportunity to white knight, to put on the white hat and be the good guy, and they want to start with what's easy and probably believe in some way it's easier to pick on women in this kind of method. 40% by Chinese Americans, 15 Korean Americans, 8 Filipino. And the thing about Asians being discriminated against in America, it's not like it wasn't a thing before this, but being denied service, discriminated against in workplaces like this at this scale seems like an almost entirely new phenomenon. And by that I mean over the last year. At a subway station in Annandale, Virginia, an Asian American woman was on an escalator when a man repeatedly punched her in the back and followed her, fake coughing and shouting Chinese bitch. They can't publish the word bitch in the Los Angeles fucking Times in a story about racism, quoting someone else. Bitch, please. Journalism. Yeah. All right. But this is something that is a new phenomena. And it's enough dumb Americans are scared enough into doing this. So to the coronavirus fear specifically, we'll at least get through this block before our guest. The headlines that they want you to be afraid of. CNBC CDC chief warns of another COVID surge as Americans travel for spring break. MSN from the Washington Post. After weeks of declining cases, echoes of hot spots emerge in upper Midwest, New York City area. From Forbes, UK coronavirus is significantly more deadly, says new study. Yeah. I mean, I told you so. Yeah, big one on all these headlines about new variants going to be used to scare you later and extend this thing. France24.com, France investigating new coronavirus variant detected in Brittany. Yeah, all right. Washington Post on MSN.com, Brazil's rolling coronavirus disaster is a threat to the world. Yeah, make it about Brazil now. Bloomberg on MSN.com, HSBC closes main Hong Kong office after multiple COVID cases. And we're going to have to come back after our guest to, all right, disconnected back. All right, so let's get Stephen up on screen here. And we are going to get to the Galveston story later on in one of our next blocks. But I got to grab a drink. I feel shitty again. I forgot to have my drink at my desk. I'll be right back, Stephen.
Okay. Real quick, Jim. We are under a tornado advisory. So if you hear me say "fuck," go to the bathroom. Just understand that I'll be away for a second, boys and girls. There are some funny ass comments. So first of all, racism is not cool. I don't understand why people would want to live in a commune with only people that look like them. I would rather live in a commune with people that believe like me. But let me see if I can find some of these amazing happy endings. Happy ending, pop in the face. Unfortunately, somebody died, but I mean, it's kind of funny. There's a huge religious argument going, not argument, but there's a religious discussion going on. But hey, did you hear me about the tornadoes?
No.
I'm under a tornado advisory, so if I just disappear, and then like you see like the mirror like say fuck it and go that way.
Shit.
The Bible is just another bastardized version of the truth. There are some people that think that. I'm not one of those people. I pretty heavily believe in the Bible.
Well, where are you? So, I mean, I want to present like a spectrum of Christians from like those I respect the most to the least. Okay, so like those I respect the least are the ones who go, the Bible is the exact literal word of God, and everything the Catholic Church says is gospel, and I must follow it to the letter unquestioning. You get why I have a problem with that, right?
So let's back up for a second.
Hold on. So then the other end of the spectrum,
okay,
right? The far end of the spectrum is The Bible is a nice set of stories that is clearly inspired by some greater Holy Spirit, but I take it as a set of values and principles and way by which I live better and live more loving. And I take comfort in the stories, and I enjoy the culture of being Christian. You see how, and then there's a lot of in between there.
So I see where you're coming from. I do not, under any circumstance, you said something that really throws me off, and I feel like I have to address it. So you say Christianity, and then in the same breath you say Catholicism. They're not the same.
The Christian fundamentalists are, I mean, you want to semanticize this argument, fine, but Catholics are generally considered. I'm not creating some other vision for myself. A form of Christianity, and sort of the fundamentalist strain.
So all the Protestants would disagree with that. Every Protestant church, every Protestant religion, every Protestant denomination would say, no, we protested and left the Catholic Church.
Right. So there's Catholics and Protestants as the original major division within Christianity, but they're both the two major branches of Christianity.
Well, so to define Christianity, part of that to me is salvation through grace alone. And the Catholics don't believe in salvation through grace alone, so I don't think you can call them Christian.
So you're the only true. I think if they, but you know what really defines it is if they call themselves that. You know, and you have the same Bible. You can't deny the original Christians the label because you have an evolved or separate or secondary version, because it is a version of the Protestant movement took the Christian Bible from the Catholics. You know, it's not like they came up with a whole new thing from the ground up and said, we protested, we're going back to being pagan now, you know?
No, they did. So when you get into Greek and when you get into Hebrew, there are two manuscripts that are used. And one is used exclusively by the Catholic Church, and then one is used exclusively by everybody else.
Slight, but it's still more or less the same. Yes, there are variants in the Bible. I don't mean to say that every single Bible out there is word for word the same. And then there's the Mormon Bible. Would you call Mormons Christians?
No.
So you're a Christian exclusionist in your categorization. So only your sort of strain of Protestantism even gets to be called Christian. I don't think that's fair.
It's not the titles, it's the belief system, right? So
the fundamental belief system that is the word Christian is that you believe in the fundamental Christian mythology of Christ as the Son of God, and the story of the fundamental story of Christ is true, and that is a way for humans to connect to God, and it means that you can't. So there are some Christians who say that you can be saved by faith alone and some works alone, right? And then some say it's both, and everybody has their own. And I think in order to respect all of these sort of ones who I respect as more individualized rather than organized or authoritative or authoritarian type Christians, their variety in what they call Christian, I think you definitely have to include all of those strains that call themselves. But that is a subject for the next debate after this, when we come back to our COVID blocks and our Galveston story, because our guest is backstage. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, one of the great transplants of the Free State Project, having moved there years ago from Washington State to New Hampshire, now living as part of the Free Keene team and the Free Talk Live team, I'm honored to be joined today by Reverend Captain Kickass, and looking good with the facial hair there, sir. but unfortunately, we are coming together under a bit unusual circumstances, and I think our community, I would say, we are happy to celebrate civil disobedience, and this is not an unrighteous or unexpected arrest, but certainly a challenge we find ourselves in here, celebrating today the arrest of the Keene Six, mourning their loss of freedom, celebrating their work through this moment, I hope, maintaining a good attitude. I don't think any of them are facing life type sentences or anything life ending or serious that we would say, oh crap, they're in real trouble. But they, as I understand, are still in custody. They were raided for financial crimes related to Bitcoin trading. So, Mr. Kickass, sir, if there's anything you want to say first to introduce yourself again to our audience, or to set yourself up before we get into the story, please go ahead, and thank you for joining us today.
Indeed, it's good to see you, and your beard is looking rather manly as well, sir. I forget how long it's been since we actually, have seen each other eye to eye, face to face. So, it's a pleasure. So thanks for the great intro. It is true, I did relocate from Seattle, Washington to Keene, New Hampshire, and I am part of the Free Talk Live team. It's odd now because the folks who have been arrested were also operators of the show, and so folks are like, "Hey, you're the captain now," and it's like, "Well, I always was the captain, but now I'm just more of a captain."
The captain. So just to go over it again, the details, if I may, from the story. The ManchesterInkLink.com, is that accurate to your knowledge?
Yeah, as far as I could.
Okay, so the six arrests, I don't think that's going to be in dispute. Ian Freeman, formerly the captain of the ship there at Free Talk Live, Colleen Fordham, Renee Spinella, Andrew Spinella, Nobody, formerly Rich Paul, and Aria DeMezzo. So, anything? Well, first, tell us a little bit, just so at least our audience is refreshed on your credentials and your connection with the story. When you moved to Keene, New Hampshire, you pretty much jumped in with Free Talk Live right away. How's that grown, and how's that been for you, and what's your role there been?
Well, it's been one of four what they call first chair. So that requires, operating the board, doing some technical stuff, some processing, both pre and post show kind of things. And well, as you know, because you had appeared on the Kick-Ass podcast prior to my relocation from Washington State, I had been dabbling in podcast broadcast stuff for quite some time. Also a former musician. I spent 22 years in the Seattle area playing in heavy metal bands and that kind of a thing. So, I have some exposure to studios and technical gear and that kind of a thing. I came to the philosophies of freedom largely through what is sometimes referred to as celebritarianism, and that would be the early YouTube movements that gained so much steam because YouTube used to be such a great platform for folks to spread, that kind of a message. And that's how I came to meet you, through booking some venues for you when you'd come through on your book tours. I learned of Free Talk Live through that same sort of a movement or through that technology. And so it just seemed like a natural fit for me. I literally relocated without knowing anybody in Keene, New Hampshire or New Hampshire at all. I didn't know anybody involved in any of the movements like the Free State Project or Free Keene or anything like that. I just felt like I needed to go, so I did. And then, unbeknownst to me, you paid a visit to the Free Talk Live studio. Mm-hmm. And I had sent you a text and was like, "Hey man, I'm in Keene," and you're like, "Hey, come to the studio." And so I walked over there, and I met everybody, and the rest is kind of history. I started just doing an occasional co-hosting thing. They identified pretty quickly that I had some technical ability to do the hosting parts and that kind of a thing, and agreed with the freedom philosophies. As you know, Free Talk Live is part of the Free Shire Church, which is a non-denominational church that anybody can belong to. And so as long as you subscribe to the non-aggression principle and you are a peaceful human being, you can become part of that church. And so, my philosophies agreed with their philosophies, and it's pretty. I feel pretty at home, really, since all that has happened. As far as the arrests and things are concerned, I feel so lame. I woke up yesterday at about 9:15 my time to a direct text from one of the other co-hosts. It says, "Hey, do you know what's going on?" And I, fired up the rest of my phone immediately. Some of my texts had failed me. My alert system had failed me, and I suspect I was sleeping rather heavily. And so I looked at my phone and read all of the goings on, immediately threw some clothes on, jumped in my car, and drove down to see what was going on. I couldn't get anywhere near the studio. They had an entire block surrounding the house cordoned off. There were somewhere between 5 and maybe 7 different agencies present. We're talking about the ATF, the IRS, the Treasury Department, local Keene PD, Cheshire County Sheriff, and somebody said they spotted a bomb squad person there. So, yeah, good times all the way around. They did a whole bunch of damage. This is the second time that this particular studio has been raided for things. The first time they actually knocked, and as happens when people knock on a door, somebody answered, and then they let them in. This time they didn't knock. They had a drone that apparently was pretty loud. Some folks who were there said as loud as a chainsaw, flying around the house, looking in the top story windows. They broke the large pane picture window on the front porch. So, and those things are expensive, and lots of glass. So glass everywhere. They threw an iron hook through one of the windows. They broke the door frames off of 3 of the doors. And just, they were gung ho, ready for action. They wanted a piece of the action. And
just for people who don't know, in Keene, New Hampshire, very intense winters, very wet parts of the year. You break a house seal like that, it's not livable, and you're rendering the house dysfunctional until that's really fixed. There,
we're so the studio, of course, was rendered nearly useless. They took everything that resembled a hard drive. They left, whatever they didn't know what to do with. And so we were able to cobble together a broadcast last night that sadly did not make it to the airwaves because of some technical difficulties related to the gear that they took. So we're currently operating in only recorded format until I'm actually headed to the studio right after we get done here to talk with the network people, to walk through some things to try and reestablish the actual radio broadcast itself. I figure that is the biggest sort of, impact that we can have.
I didn't want to put you on the spot with this, but I was trying to watch the show live last night and couldn't connect. And I've been like, wait, how come the latest episode's not up? Okay. Get that audio file up, man.
The audio files are going to be posted to the Free Talk Live Telegram channel until all of our access is restored. So if you can't hear the episodes live, we are recording them, and I am posting them the following day over at the Free Talk Live Telegram channel. You can find all of our social media at freetalklive.com.
Crazy.
So yeah, we cobbled together a broadcast last night, somewhat of a semi-fundraiser as well, because as you can imagine, gear needs to be replaced. Needs to be some construction done to the house, replacing of door frames, windows, that type of a thing. And so we've had of course, Keene has a pretty solid community. So we've had lots of folks coming forward and volunteering, not only donations, but efforts. We had a couple of guys with some handyman skills, just putting up plywood over the windows until we can get glass people over there and frames repaired, all that fun stuff. So yeah, good times in Keene, man.
Crazy. So what do you know about the story, the rest of the story of the arrest incident itself, in terms of these 6 being taken into custody? Were they all in the house at the time?
So no, actually, they went to multiple locations, both the studio house in Keene as well as the Bitcoin Embassy, which is sort of on the other side of town. Yeah, that's definitely some footage. Something also I found curious was that most of these agents, while they did have all these identifiers saying police and FBI and IRS, they all had like their name tags covered up. Of course, they're all wearing masks due to COVID and that type of thing. But I found that interesting. Some people were
COVID.
Yeah. Some people were taking.
They have any iota of appropriate shame for what they're doing.
It's hard to tell. These guys operate as if they are thugs. They literally are the largest mafia the world has ever known, in my opinion. And the evidence seems to point to that as well. U.S. government is the largest government that has ever existed on planet Earth. And, if you try to do something that they don't like, they're certainly going to let you know it. So as far as the arrests, the arrests were concerned, some folks were taken out of their homes. Folks live at different places. Obviously, not everybody resides as a tenant at the studio and that kind of a thing. So a few of the folks were taken out of their various homes. The homes were not raided in the same fashion that the studio and the Bitcoin Embassy were. But the Bitcoin Embassy was kind of interesting. I spent a good 4.5 or so hours over there, just sort of watching along with a bunch of other activists filming, and, verbally harassing these agents who were committing vast crimes to the property there. They brought in the Jaws of Life to attempt to remove the Bitcoin vending machine at the Bitcoin Embassy, which of course was bolted to the concrete floor. So they had a difficult time doing that. They did eventually get to it.
Wow.
But yeah. So they brought in specialized equipment, all that kind of thing.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. Just if I may interrupt for a really quick sidebar, because we did some, personal security segments in the show, one of the recent show, and talked about, if you don't know how a safe works, just a safe, you can have it bolted to a cement pad, and then if the cops can't get into it, at least they're going to have to come with Jaws of Life, or like in my case, when my home was raided in Virginia, safe was not bolted to the floor, but it was a closet-sized gun safe that they couldn't get out of there, and they had to spend hours hacking at it with crowbars and semi-heavy machinery, that they could get down in my basement. So this is an example of a security precaution that I assume was taken to secure financial assets with a Bitcoin device, ATM or whatever it was, and vending everything associated with it. You can have it a steel frame of a device, a safe or a vending machine or an ATM bolted to the floor, and then it's not that it's impossible to get it out, but it takes a lot of effort and you got to make a lot of noise.
And they certainly did, and it took a lot of effort. They brought in some sort of a municipal truck that had all sorts of different, utilities on the back. I think there was a welder on the back, and things of that nature. There was a winch on the front of the truck, and I don't know what they were thinking, but they, brought in what they thought was the heavy equipment to try and extract that. But to your question about the arrest, I'm actually not familiar with a couple of people who were on that. But I can talk about nobody, of course, formerly known as Rich Paul. He is still in custody. Aria, who's also a first chair host on Free Talk Live, I'm told has been released, but there are bail conditions. I have not seen or heard from her, so I've had no contact at this point. Mr. Freeman is still in jail. His hearing has been moved to Friday for some reason, when everybody else had theirs yesterday. So I'm not sure what's going with that. Mark Edge, who's
just so everybody knows, he's the ringleader publicly and on all the secret behind the scenes criminal enterprises.
Yeah, he's such a menace. I mean, I've never met a nicer person and a more consistent, man who acts on philosophy. Yeah. And
very principled, extreme integrity, and pretty mild manner. Just gentle, chill dude. You know,
And
the only
accepting
thing
of,
you ever see him really like worked up about is government doing shit.
yeah, and he's very accepting of different people. He has this weird understanding, I think, of, people come from different backgrounds and have different, ways of, having grown up or become the person that they are. And he's just very accepting of you and your quirks as a person and that kind of a thing. So I can't really say I've had a bad experience with him at all, ever. So.
Okay, so the others, Colleen Fordham, Renee Spinella, Andrew Spinella.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Renee and Andy, so I really have no information there. Colleen, I believe, how do I explain this? So the Bitcoin Embassy is in a building, and sharing a space, or at least next door, there's another business called the Mighty Moose Mart. It is a convenience store that is run by Colleen and her husband, Chris. And so it's in the same building. It's just a separate business. If you've ever seen like a strip mall or something like that, there's a store here and a store there.
Right.
So that's kind of the thing. Colleen is one of the owners of the Mighty Moose Mart. I don't know what the connection is there. So, I really have no information.
It's possible. I mean, Ian is your business involvement with Ian and is limited to Free Talk Live. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so obviously Ian is a busy entrepreneurial dude who's got a lot of stuff going on, is involved in other businesses and ventures like this. So it's possible that he would have partners involved with something like that you might not know of at all directly, right? Who would be rolled up in this. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, my thought process is that he has, through the Shire Free Church, the church has been on many different missions to spread freedom, peace, and prosperity. And so one of those missions is to spread the use of decentralized currencies like Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, that type of thing. So the players, this appears to have been an investigation, from what I've read, that spanned over 5 years now. So I've only been on the Free Talk Live crew I'm going on my second year here. I think come September will be the end of year 2. So, what may have happened before I got here, what sort of dealings with other people existed before that, what sort of assistance they had with the church, I'm not aware of. So I can't really speak to those folks, other than I'm glad that they weren't, killed by the armed thugs that, came to town. And that I hope they get out and are, of course, exonerated from any charges. Now,
the indictment, someone sent me the actual grand jury charges, and it's the United States of America versus the 6 named defendants. And I actually kind of like how they have recognized their assumed names, and I don't know what their legal status is, but I don't know if Ian ever legally changed his last name to Freeman.
I believe he did, and I also I know for a fact that Rich Paul changed his name to nobody legally when he ran for governor.
Okay, and what about Aria? Did she get her name changed from James Baker to Aria DiMezzo legally, or just declare it?
I'm under the impression that was a legal change.
Okay, interesting. So I guess I thought it was the government respecting people. Somebody, at least one of these names was not. Man, they got permission to change their names. Really? I would have expected one of them would have just said, no, I'm just doing this. But okay. And then it would have been nice that the government acknowledged it. But if that's not the case, okay. So anyway, I just want to get into this first thing and make this point again that I made earlier in the show, that part of the charges is demonizing them, looking like they were like secretly making a ton of money illegally. And I think you can testify that, Ian has a number of successful small businesses, but he hasn't been like living a secret lavish lifestyle or driving. There's not
you've been in the house, bro. So
he's in the same house that I've been in, that he's been in for years. Unless there's like a bunch of Lambos in the driveway and like a giant secret underground lair. They're not getting super rich off of this. They're not, or at least they're not living a lifestyle that would even reflect having access to any kind of significant money. And yet the indictment puts in the first paragraph in total between approximately May 25th, 2016 and March 15, 2021. This is where you get that 5-year investigation figure. The defendants engaged in excess of $10 million for virtual currency on behalf of customers throughout the United States, including in the District of New Hampshire. Now, I just want to point out that that's the exchanged in excess of $10 million. That sounds to a lot of lay people perhaps like, oh yeah, I had $10 million. I gave Captain $10 million and he gave me $10 million. No. That means the captain and I wanted to exchange $10 million and they provided the service of making the exchange happen. And for that, PayPal, which is exorbitant, takes a 3% cut. In this competitive environment, I would be shocked if they made 1% of that. And that would have been $100,000 over 5 years. That's $20,000 a year split 6 ways. They're not making they didn't like crack the nut of crypto. None of them were early investors who got super rich. I mean, they could be hiding it really well. I don't know.
Well, the other thing I want to
even this number is ridiculous because you break it down. 6 people over 5 years made $20,000 a year illegally. Fuck you for not writing that off. Fuck you for wasting the time. This is some petty shit. And that's what you're going to come up, and it's unlicensed business. Write them a fucking ticket or shut them down slowly through the grinding of the business through legal means but you're going to arrest them and do it violently, and fuck you. Like, no, I'm sorry. There's really no excuse for this. Do I have that more or less right?
You do, and here's one other thing I'd like to add to your analysis is think of how the price of Bitcoin has grown from 5 years ago. Now, I'm sure they're estimating high. So they're going, oh, well, if it was, I don't know, whatever 5 million translates into Bitcoin, 50 Bitcoin is the total amount of value that was transferred. Well, if Bitcoin was $3,000, $5,000, I don't know what it was 5 years ago, but it was not $50,000, right? Which it's around 50 or 60 today. So they're saying that up to, that amount of money, the $10 million, and that's measured in today's Bitcoin value. So how much of that value was transferred when Bitcoin was very low 5 years ago versus when the last, 6 months, 8 months or so since it's been on its rise, right? So that's another thing that you have to consider when they're calculating this value.
Yeah, and I want to go through the indictment if you have a few extra minutes to hang with us here. Okay, excellent, because this actually lays out all the counts, and these are all victimless crimes. And it actually has a punishment already. If it, what would be one thing too, it would be almost an approximation of justice, or at least not such a gross, grotesque, disproportionate perversion if they said, hey, we think you've been doing illegal stuff with this computer, and we think you paid for it illegally, and we're going to confiscate it, but we're going to do it, peacefully, and it's a property thing, not a custody thing, right?
Right.
But these are all victimless crimes, and that punishment of having the stuff confiscated is already in this warrant that was issued from this indictment in such a way that they've already got an outsized punishment if they were guilty of everything that they said, even if it was a crime. But these are all still victimless crimes. Count 1, conspiracy to operate unlicensed money transmitting business, which means that, hey, you didn't get government permission. You weren't part of our big cartel. You didn't pay your protection racket fees. Count 2, operation of unlicensed money transmitting business. Count 3, operation of unlicensed money transmitting business. Count 4, conspiracy to commit wire fraud. And then it has counts 5 through 18, wire fraud, and it lists telephone calls, email, wire transfer from a number of the defendants to financial institutions, and has the account last 4 numbers posted in here. Count 19, continuing financial crimes enterprise. How is that like? So committing a crime for more than a moment in time is now the continuing of the crime. That's another charge.
Continuing.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Count 20, money laundering. And then here's how it ends. So those are the counts. The last part here is notice of. By the way, did you hear any victims that? I mean, I guess you could say wire fraud is potentially a crime with a victim if you're depriving someone of something through that fraud. But in this case, that's not really what the charge conspiracy to commit wire fraud means, does it?
Yeah, I actually am not familiar enough with the government definition of wire fraud to tell you what it is or isn't. And I would also assume that there's some confusion even within government itself as to what that definition is. So
yeah, other than even that potential by twisting government words, there's nothing in here that's a crime that's got a victim.
right. And
then,
just for
there's
your
nothing here that's violent or physical at all.
and for your listeners and the folks who are watching the broadcast, what do we define as a crime? Well, I always go back to like maritime law to look at that, and all that maritime law says.
Crime.
Yeah, all the maritime law says harm to a person or property. I see the indictment doesn't list any people who've been harmed.
No foul. Yeah.
Doesn't list any property that's been harmed. So where's the actual crime?
They're about to list the property they're going to fuck up of theirs. You ready for this? Pursuant to blah, 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 numbers, codes, letters, and upon conviction of the offenses alleged in counts 1 through 18 of this indictment, the defendant shall forfeit to the United States of America any property constituting or derived from any proceeds obtained directly or indirectly as the result of such offenses, and any property used or intended to be used in any manner or part to commit or to facilitate the commission of the charged offenses. Yep. Pursuant to 18 U.S. Code, Section 982, Alpha 1, and upon conviction of the money laundering offense, charge in count 20 of this indictment, defendant Ian Freeman shall forfeit to the U.S. all property, real or personal, involved in the money laundering offense, and all property traceable to the offense. And the government would do something like, well, if you made one car payment with stolen money or money that we say was stolen, we take the car, right, and then we get to auction off. So we have a super chat interrupting here. David Zientar for $5. Captain Kickass, I downloaded one of your parodies. Hey, you got a fan here. That's awesome. All right,
just self-aggrandizing plug. LordKickass.com is my parody website where I actually wrote a song. It's a parody of the Beatles' Paperback Writer, but it's titled "Wear the Face Diaper," and it's pretty funny. So there you go.
Okay, so the very last part of this. The United States, pursuant to whatever code, the United States of America shall be entitled to forfeiture of substitute property if any of the property described above as a result of any act or omission of the defendant's A cannot be located upon the exercise of due diligence, B has been transferred or sold to or deposited with a third party, is in place beyond the jurisdiction of the court, has been substantially diminished in value, or has been commingled with other property which cannot be divided without difficulty. I mean, basically, that's we can take any property. Like I said, if Ian made a car payment on your car, they could come and steal your car based on this. And what they got, I would presume, I'm guessing here, was a warrant for these 6 persons, and then blanket warrants for the 2 properties where they could say with their investigation there was significant related activity, and probably all hard drives and electronics from the others. And there's something scary. I mean, if they came and took my cell phone, that's half my brain. I don't know what I would do.
Right.
But is there anything else to understand about this story before we move to what we can do to help?
Just that it is the raid itself is the crime. That's where all of the property damage was done. That's where all of the harm to individual people who are otherwise peaceful in all of their interactions. That's where the real crime is. It is the government acting as if they have special rights because they wear the badges, they have the guns, they wear the little uniforms that say, hey, I'm with the government. And so they believe that that absolves them of any, ethics or morality in the entire situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not special about this story, but it is a beautifully glaring modern incident. And man, with the backdrop of COVID, I mean, I hate to even bring COVID into this. I want to keep it quarantined, but
No pun intended.
As long as we're getting censored, let's give out some misleading medical advice, right? No, but here, don't get arrested in the age of COVID for bullshit because they're going to put you in jail where you're going to get it, right? No, that's not it. But according to their mythology, that's a part of this, and yet instead of focusing on that we are living in a time of heightened fear where government says be afraid of COVID especially, but so many other things that we're protecting you from. A couple people doing under the table Bitcoin trades in Keene, New Hampshire.
Yeah,
so
if this happened to any
other,
if this type of a raid happened to any other religious organization, right? Any other type of church.
Because the cash in your collection bucket wasn't immediately scanned and accounted for. You committed 3 felonies. No, I'm not joking, but that if they wanted to go after a church on the same technicalities, easily. The mega churches that process millions of dollars, easily. They're committing multiple felonies every day because they can't avoid it logistically.
Right. And the government doesn't get a cut from them either because churches are tax-free. So why does the government suddenly want to cut from...
Oh, did we lose you there? Is that my connection or yours? Jim, jump on if that's...
Yeah, it's his connection. He froze on my nose back there. There he goes. He's back.
No.
All right, back. Excellent.
Not sure what happened. I just wanted to say that to me this is a witch hunt against Ian Freeman because he has been, probably the largest thorn in the side of the government agencies as far as spreading peace and freedom through decentralized technologies like Bitcoin and the blockchain.
Yeah, there's an interesting element to this of like why is it to go after Ian because there's that there are a lot of motivations for government. Let's consider this for a second. Ian is I think like myself, I put him in the same rare circle of activists who have been committed to the freedom message for a decade plus. And consistently and built their life around their activism, right? And Ian is unquestionably in that category. Rich Paul, I think, pretty close. And Aria certainly going in that direction as someone who's just getting more active relatively recently. Is this going to be like they're just trying to harass them? But like I think of all of the things, or is it a combination of that plus like. There's a lot of agencies involved. There's the busybody element. Like they want, hey man, we need to put points on the board when it comes to crypto. Let's bust some crypto people, right? It's gonna make us look good or justify our budget to Congress. That kind of silly shit. But I think from Ian's perspective, he's figuring out a way to really capitalize on this while he's in jail right now. This is like. For me, like of all the illegal things that nothing's illegal here in Gardenia if it's NAP compliant, of course. But of all the things that I have done in my life that cross the line of government law or regulation, this would be the equivalent of them, raiding my house with a SWAT team and taking me away in handcuffs with a bag over my head for driving without a license plate, right? I mean,
yeah.
And Ian's going, and I know if they did that to me, I'd be like, I'm the guy who got hooded for for not registering my car. Yes, let. Oh yeah, we're gonna make hay out of this, and I hope there's some, I hope that the government fucked up on this one really bad. That they went too far and they messed with the wrong activist who's loved by too many people. Who, when they take Ian Freeman away, and he's probably going to get released on Friday. I mean, keeping our fingers crossed, right? They'd be hard pressed to find a justification to keep him locked up, but they might give him an unreasonable bail or bond or however it works in that jurisdiction. But thoughts on that?
It looks like the folks who have bailed out already have been given some, a very long list of conditions, including, no use of alcohol, no firearms. You can't associate with any of the other defendants, on this particular indictment, among other things that I was just
guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah, so they're definitely trying to make life difficult. But I think, to your point, all of this activity and the fact that they've involved so many different agencies is really just more publicity for the Shire Free Church, for Free Talk Live, for freedom activists, yourself included, because this is the type of publicity that can't be bought. Yes, it does require sacrifice.
Like this. You can't just cast extras in uniform. You have to goad them, and they're not predictable and they're not safe. But man, they sure embarrass government.
Yeah. So we're at a point now where we're just trying to reestablish the show, and that to me is the biggest middle finger I think that we can hurl in the general direction of the government to say, hey, you know what, you tried, but we're back.
All right, so end us out here with your plugs for the show for the Keene. Are we calling them the Keene 6 now? Is it? There's been a Keene 4 and a Keene 3 and a Keene 9 at one point, I think. Is this the Keene 6? Is that what we call this?
I'm personally I'm feeling a lot better about the Crypto 6 than the Keene 6.
Yeah.
There's been several names sort of tossed around. What are we going to call this? And I'm leaning towards the Crypto 6.
The Crypto 6 it is. For now at least. Yeah, the Crypto 6. All right, so what can we do to help them out right now?
freetalklive.com. There's several things up there. You can become an amplifier, and that is to say that you can donate X amount of dollars. We only ask for $5. You can donate more if you want to help get the radio show on more radio stations. We're currently on something like 185 radio stations. We could be on 200. We could be on 250. It's really all up to the amount of folks that we have. If you do go to, see AMP donate right there. If you do go to donate, then there are some perks for each level of donation. You get on some special emails and some other things like that. But this money goes directly to get us on more radio stations. It does not go into, like my beer budget or anything like that.
It should.
We are sort of a little, I don't want to say leery. I do want to promote this page. There is some question as to whether or not the wallets behind this are secure. So temporarily, there is a setup of something called a vanity crypto address through Edge Wallet has made this possible. And I've set up Captain Kickass at Edge. So if folks are, if they don't feel secure about contributing to the AMP program, they can just, instead of entering a long Bitcoin address in your Bitcoin, your BTC, your Ethereum address, you can enter Captain Kickass at Edge. Anything that goes to that address, I'm siphoning directly to the Shire Free Church for the rebuilding process.
Before you get to the next one there, Captain, G.I. Mary Jane says, how do I throw down for the beer budget? And if I may suggest, there may be cannabis coming in the mail also, as, we've heard the human condition sometimes requires a little anesthetic. It might require a little extra right now. I think people want to take care of y'all, make sure that y'all get whatever you need. So if it's something that people could put in the mail addressed to you directly, if people want to make material contributions, whether it's like panes of glass or anything like that, maybe an email to coordinate with you directly, or if you want to make I don't know if you have a public mailing address that's viable right now that maybe isn't the studio building, but something like that you want to make available.
Yeah, for terrestrial mail, you can send anything you like to CKA, that stands for Captain Kick-Ass, and then I put an A on the end of it for something I don't remember. CKA Enterprises, and the address is 23632 Highway 99, and it's number F as in Frank 220, and it's Edmonds, Washington, EDMONDS, Washington 98026.
All right, if you send me all that written out on Telegram right after this, the same number we've been communicating with on Signal, we'll get it on the screen for all of our viewers as well.
Groovy. What was the other bit of information you wanted? Terrestrial address?
Email, probably an email directly for you that we know is not vulnerable to the Free Talk Live servers. Because there is the possibility still, I got to point out, that, we're holding Ian because we're going to throw more charges at him, and then there's more waves of arrests or confiscations coming around him. You got to be a little nervous, at least a little bit, I hope, and being cautious that there might be another incident or wave of arrests around another related enterprise, and I hope you're taking appropriate precautions there as well.
Yeah, email communications, sadly, the one that's most removed from everything is my Gmail address, and it is Reverend Captain Kickass @gmail.com. It's all lowercase, no spaces, underscores, or anything. Reverend Captain Kickass @gmail.com.
That's the easy one. I think that's the most important to remember there. Reverend Captain Kickass @gmail.com. Thank you.
Indeed. I'm about to send you the address. 02, there we go. Should be on its way to your Signal now.
Not Signal. You got it. We'll do it later, but yeah, I got to get it on Telegram here. Let's see. I can.
My bad.
Let's see. I can get it here.
Okay.
So go ahead. What else would you like to see people do to help this effort right now for the Crypto 6?
Just pay attention to what's going on. Educate yourself as much as possible about the philosophies of freedom. I know that your audience is keenly aware, no pun intended, of freedom and, the effects that it has. It seems to me, and I've made a couple social media posts recently, it seems to me that freedom is no longer popular. And I don't know why that is. I don't know why the majority of people seem to be, ignorantly anti-freedom instead of vehemently pro-freedom. Folks ask me all the time, why do I refer to myself as Captain Kickass or Reverend Captain Kickass? Part of it is because I want to remind myself that I am the highest authority. I am the most correct person to make decisions for myself. I know myself the best. I've lived with myself the longest. I know what my tendencies are and are not. I am the most qualified to make decisions for myself. And thus, I want to remind myself to be a captain of myself. And so I continue to use that name.
So it's a fun self-motivational reminder name.
Well, and it's also to be a motivation to everybody else, too, as a reminder, hey, you can be captain of yourself. You are your own, starship, if you will, on this rock, hurtling thousands of miles through the universe and that kind of thing. You are the captain of yourself as well. So, hopefully I can inspire people to act more individually, keep people from sort of, poo-pooing people who, are more individual than others. This collective mentality just really sits poorly with me, particularly in this day and age. With, we talked about COVID and all that kind of thing, which has brought sort of a very dystopian vibe to my universe. And I'm sure it has for many other people as well. And I just don't like the direction it's going. I think if we celebrate individualism, then we can achieve far more as a species.
Well, I would only disagree with the individualism being in the spirit of creating a better world for everyone. And I would always remind people that there is the relationship analysis of everything you just said, which is that, in terms of political philosophy of what we're discussing, where we share the exact same foundational principles, just slightly different, rhetorical angles, perhaps.
Sure.
But to me, this is the appeal of the word voluntarism. It speaks to the relationships between humans, because the corollary to what you said is not individualism. It's relational. It's seeing us as the whole human family, all deserving of respect, and that all of our relationships should be free of force, fraud, and coercion. And that being said, it's clear that in the arrest of the Crypto Six, they're the victims.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, sir. Hope everybody in our audience takes this opportunity to support some activists in a critical moment to heart.
It's good to see you. I hope to see you in person real soon, Adam.
Excellent. Yes. All right. Oh, man, that was wonderful. Let's get Stephen back up on stage here, do a little debrief on that. And then maybe we'll do a skimming of our next two COVID blocks just to get out. We can save it for tomorrow. There's nothing else in our headlines that's like, gotta know today. But that was a really fun interview. Mr. Kickass is always a great guest and always fun to talk to.
So I want to, while he's still on here, Reverend, if you will, I've been on Adam's show a few times. I've been handcuffed for my religious views. I have the hookup on lawyers. If you are recognized by the state as being a religious institution, there's this thing called Notre Dame doctrine. I asked it in the comments, and then I looked it up. You have Notre Dame doctrine in New Hampshire. So if you're a registered church, they have to ask the hierarchy of your church for permission to do raids. So I don't know what the philosophy of your church is, and I'm pretty steadfast Christian in my religious views. However, I'm always down for a good protest when it comes to the state. The most notable case would be, gonna mess it up, Emmanuel Gonzalez.
Well, hold on. Before you go down that legal rabbit hole, I think let's make sure that we get lawyers who might want to help hooked up with the team, because there's a lot of ways that even if that gets this dismissed, something like that would get the evidence dismissed or the charges dismissed. As they would say, you can beat the charge, but you can't beat the ride, and they need help with the ride right now. And part of that is getting lawyers just to get in and talk to them, and especially when they might have restrictions like limiting their communications ability.
The goal is not to beat the charges. The goal is to sue the shit out of them and get a castle for your headquarters.
All right. Well, it might turn into that. If I got swatted for not registering my vehicle out here, you think I could sue if they shot my dog? Probably. But
I keep telling my fiance I want them to arrest me over some bullshit so I can turn their police department into a skate park. And she's like, "You don't even skate." And I'm like, "That's not the point."
You can sue government, but you'll probably lose.
I just want a skate park.
All right, what else do we have in the comments, Steven?
Fiona loves me. There's some hilarious shit. We got to go over this. G.I. Mary Jane is in his house. So first she stated, freedom isn't popular because people fear self-accountability, And then she followed that up with, unless the babysitter's hot.
So I'm glad that G.I. Mary Jane is there to point that out, because I almost went down that rabbit hole, that sidebar with the captain, and is free. There is a difference in attitude. I don't want to deny it, because it does contradict. I am tempted to deny it because it contradicts my worldview, of freedom slowly increasing and the movement slowly growing. But I have to admit that even within that, there are possibilities of it leveling off. There can be periods of less growth or no growth, or where the growth of the libertarian movement doesn't beat the growth of the population of the United States or the world. And it seems so. You can just think back to like the Ron Paul era, 2007 to 2012, right?
Okay.
From the beginning of his first campaign getting momentum in the 2008 election was 2007, and then the end of his second presidential campaign, 2012.
Okay.
There was like a distinct era of acceleration of the movement because of Ron Paul's presidential campaigns. Now, they brought people together and created a means for us to connect with others. And then even following that, I would say, and overlapping with that, there was an era of blossoming of independent media, and particularly independent libertarian media. And Adam versus the Man has survived on and off through some challenges since then. And Free Talk Live has done very well, at least maintaining, but I would even expect them, as much as they have grown, to be bigger more at this point. And it does seem like we've entered kind of a stall period. And that's
well, so
that does deserve examination. It's fear. A lot of it's fear and collectivism around Corona, of course.
well,
But I don't think that's the whole thing. And even that
about,
deserves examination.
I want to talk about Free Talk Live just for a moment, because people that have seen me on this show, especially in the past, I make fun of you because when I was in high school, I saw the Winter Soldier thing, and you were like, they didn't even cut the fucking card square. I'm like, well, then fix it, you piece of shit. But seriously, I hate saying YouTube because YouTube's kind of going downhill these days, and it's going downhill fast. But the digital sphere and YouTube allowed me to baby step my way into libertarianism, because, I mean, how many videos do you have on YouTube, Adam?
Yeah, it was a huge gateway, and I was a huge gateway. And at first, the book was a huge gateway, and I feel like I'm just kind of maintaining my base and my exposure and audience and all of that. Whereas I used to get a lot more people saying, you woke me up, and it's like we've been kind of choked out of that through shadow banning and other logistical and organizational challenges and legal challenges over the years. But I see that my experience in that sense is not unusual for libertarian media, sadly, and I do feel a certain connection, obviously, to the Crypto Six, not because of the nature of their arrest itself, but having been arrested for activism or just not quite complying with government.
How many times have you been arrested for activism?
I lost track at like 3 dozen, and then it was like 50, 100 or something. I don't know. I mean, it's how do you want to count it too? Like,
every time that you've been put in the back of a car.
So, okay, so let's go in like reduction of intensity, right? So like the longest I've done in jail is 4 months. I've also done a week, a handful of weekends, and no, wait, there was a 10-day. Yeah, so wait, 4 months, 10 days, a bunch of 3 days and 2 days, and then like a couple dozen overnights, and then a bunch of sight and release. So like it's not really if you get in the back of a car. Like, well, I've been. Oh wait, no, it was 10. So 4 months. 4 months in DC/Virginia, 10 days in Texas, 7 days in Philly. There was a 3 day in DC, and then like a dozen, weekends where you get arrested on a Friday or Saturday. And it's until Monday morning, and then overnights, yeah, like a dozen or two, and then like where they arrest you and take you to the station and release you, maybe a dozen of those, and then arrested, like getting cuffed but released with a ticket, ID'd and released with a ticket, like a few dozen of those as well, or just detained and released with a ticket. And if you count, like technically you're getting arrested, and I don't count this when people say how many times have you been arrested, but technically when you get pulled over, that's an arrest. The actually just getting pulled over is an arrest of the driver in terms of a legal and real category. I don't count that because it's petty and it happens a lot.
So I actually, this was a couple years ago, a cop, he said he was going to write me a ticket. I said, all you're doing is wasting our time because I'm not paying the fucking ticket. You're lying out of your asshole. Because what happened was an off-duty police officer saw me do something, so he called an on-duty cop, and the on-duty cop said that he saw me do it. And I'm like, whatever, y'all can go fuck yourself. I'm fighting this ticket. And so I went and filed a complaint with the sergeant, and the sergeant was like, no, we suspend your rights when we pull you over, young man. And I'm like, motherfucker, you don't suspend shit.
No, this is and the legal loophole is the driver's licensing system, where they say that by operating a motor vehicle with a government license on a government road, you have accepted a different standard of allowing yourself to be detained, as opposed to as an individual person in your home or just walking in public, where they have to have probable cause of suspecting you of committing a crime. When you're operating a motor vehicle, they can arrest, as in stop you under the threat of force and detain you for apparent or suspected code violation of traffic law. So, or traffic, whatever, anything. So, our vehicle regulations. So anyway, let's check in with the comments. We got just a minute left here. Any other comments you want to share? You want to give a producer club membership away today?
The problem today is that every good well, not every good comment, but the vast majority of the good comments are coming from people that I know are already in the club.
Right on. Well, hey, I would just remind people, since there was a crypto or a mention. One part of our headline block was about the stimulus checks, and we'll come. I got the COVID vax, COVID enforcement, international stimulus, drugs and porn grab bag. You can grab your stimulus, your drugs, and your porn in my stimulus, drugs, and porn grab bag of headlines. But part of it was about the stimulus check and what people are spending them on. And I would just remind everybody, if you got yours yesterday, or you're getting it today, or you're getting a check in the mail, get it out of dollars quickly. Well, and I don't want to say, if you're going to save it, if your response to, I would like to save it securely and not think about it, at least take some urgency, like, within a week, get it out of the dollar, put it into crypto or metals or some other investment. I mean, if I wanted to sort of save, if I just want to think of it as savings, Stephen wants you to buy guns, not a bad investment. Well, as we figured out yesterday, though, hugely overpriced still. But silver, if you want savings, if you just want savings, go buy silver. Go to a coin store. Find a way to, if you can buy it in person with cash and be off the record with it, that's the best. If you got to do it online, if you're not afraid to have that, let it be on the record somewhere, or the government can find out that you have or bought silver on this date, then maybe like that. or you don't want to risk getting it through the mail, or think through that process of how do I get it securely in the mail, go to a coin store. If you, however much of that stimulus check, Craig's suggestion, but by reloading supplies, yeah, that's another opportunity there. But with that, let's check in with Jim for the promos.
Yeah.
What's going on, guys?
Fun
Great
show
today. Great guest. Yeah, I loved it. That was a great guest, and I hope the Crypto Six get the help they need. Let's just put it that way. We won't dig too much into it. As far as promos go, I'm right here at the bottom, so I can tell you go to AdamVersusTheMan.com. Oh, that's comment screwed everything up.
Oh shit, my bad. I'm an asshole.
Steven's always gonna play stuff that says that they love Steven. So Steven's easy. He's a comment whore up here.
They fucking love the pink
say,
chin.
I love Steven. He's gonna get it up.
Chin.
Take your pink chin ass down while I do promos. I like being the producer. I control the show. I'll be back. Okay. So go to AdamVersusTheMan.com. Once you're there, let me share the screen with you so you can see all the awesome stuff you can do. You can check out our live show here. That's the banner advertisement in case you ever forget what time the show. Do we have to update it there? 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific time. That's not right anymore, is it?
Just no, 8 to 10 is right.
Oh, it is Jim, right. Okay.
Jim, daylight savings, the rest of the country springs forward, and Arizona now aligns with Pacific time.
Okay, yeah, I always forget if they're off from us now or if they're back to us now. But yeah, I remember when they spring forward, they catch back up to us, and when they fall back,
this is the other cost of daylight saving, of how much time you got to stop and go, wait, what the fuck did government do to the time now? God damn it, yeah. So no, 8 to 10 our new time is 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific. The downside of this, well, actually, so Jim, kind of interesting feature here, because we've pinned the time. I mean, we could just do the show on Arizona time and say fuck you to the rest of the country when the time you want. Hey, if you don't like Adam versus the Man changing time twice a year, tell your state government to be like Arizona and get you the fuck off daylight saving, right?
Stop fucking with the clock. Yeah.
And we could do that. We could say that from now on the show is not 8 to 10 Pacific. We could say the show is 8 to 10 Arizona. And then when they fall back, we're still 8 to 10. But if they fall back, then Arizona goes to aligning with Mountain, and the time is of the show is then 9 to 11, which might be nice for the winter actually here, if the sun's been up a little longer.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to change, but we can change the time of our show. The changing of the clocks, that's a whole different subject. It's when you're at
to get to the global metric time. 10 hours in a day, 10 minutes in an hour, 10 seconds in a minute, 10 microseconds in a second, and
then we're all good. I would have to play that out. And I can't.
But then that song, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, won't make sense. It's like, no, it's 5 o'clock everywhere. And then it's not 5 o'clock everywhere for the rest of the day until it's 5 o'clock again. We'll get there, Jim. You know what? We probably won't be able, like, it would be so there, man. I mean, we should do this. Like, really, the sooner the better. And there, I think I want to do a story. We should interview one of the advocates for this. But I think it would be better for a lot of reasons. And it still might make sense to do time zones, but you can have a global universal metric time system that people start slowly adapting to. But it would be so weird to be like, a broken clock is right twice a day. What are you talking about, Grandpa?
Yeah.
Twice a day? Clock? What? Why did you repeat 12 hours twice a day? What? AM, PM? You split the day into 24 pieces and then 2 pieces of 12 24s and then 60 and then wait, what? Okay.
Yeah, it's a little confusing, just like our language.
It's like I think it started with the second and said, okay, 60 of these is a minute. Okay, then 60 of these is an hour. Ah, fuck, that's too big. We can't fit 60 of these in a day. Shit. All right, 24. Fuck it.
Sounds good. Oh, math. Okay, all right, back to promotions. Go to Adam versus Amanda. I haven't even started. We just got sidebarred right out of the gate. What are you talking about?
I was trying to end on
Go to
time.
Adam
Go
versus
to this
Amanda.com.
workshop.
Once you're there, you can go to the Patreon. It's a little button right there. You click, and it brings you to this page. You click on one of these buttons to join. $10 a month is going to get you access to our Patreon private group chat, which is awesome. So do that. Go back to the webpage. Go to Cigar Federation. They have all the cigars that you could imagine. Go through the website for a while and click on everything that pops out at you. And then use promo code Adam10 to get 10% off your entire order there. Then go back to the website and click on the shop button, because I forgot to tell you about this earlier, and this is probably the best thing on the internet. You can get all your Freedom gear from this website straight delivered to your house, and they have all the different logo stuff. We even have the Jim versus Man stuff. You can get the Adam versus Man logo or the Freedom logo on any of this different merchandise. So give that a check out. For sure. And then after you're done with that, I have to stop sharing that screen to be able to show you the last thing, which is the Instagram for the Garden of Freedom. That's at the Garden of Freedom on Instagram. You go there, you can keep up to date with everything that's going on with Mr. Kokesh up there in Gardenia. He's posting pictures constantly. He's got a bunch of new ones up there from recently, and you can check out his recruiting picture that he has that'll let you know all the stuff he's looking for help with volunteers with, to get involved, to get yourself involved. So many people are always sitting there thinking, how can I get involved? Check this out and see if that appeals to you as a way to get involved, because we have fun here. You see us have fun here every day. And if you're watching us have fun here every day, you obviously at some level want to be involved. So give that a check and see what you can do.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jim. We got really good news today, actually, for this day in history from goodnewsnetwork.org. Although I don't know if this is really the good news, but it was the birth of a nation 160 years ago. Today, Italy became a nation state for the first time. So happy birthday, Italy. Inspired by Spaniards who created their own constitution in 1812, leaders on the Italian peninsula began embracing the ideal of unification. They persevered through struggle against the Austrian Empire, which controlled the Italian-speaking Northeast, and in strong opposition to the Pope, who controlled Rome. But they did it. And that's political wrangling, political power. Was it good news? Was it a power away from the empire, or the creation of a new power that would then be an interesting player in wars later on? I don't know if we can celebrate that as universally good news, but indisputably good news. On this day in 1845, the rubber band was invented. On this day in 1901, a showing of 71 Vincent van Gogh paintings in Paris, 11 years after his death, created a sensation. On this day in 1910, 111 years ago today, the Campfire Girls was founded. 80 years ago today, 1941, the National Gallery of Art opened in Washington, D.C. On this day in 1948, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, France, and the UK signed the Treaty of Brussels, a precursor to NATO. And better news, on this day in 1992, a referendum to end apartheid in South Africa was passed by 68.7% of voters. I hate to be cynical, but that means that even that the system was able to continue until more than 2/3 of the country wanted it over. But yeah, it was a good thing to end. And finally, happy St. Patrick's Day. Today is the annual holiday when Americans celebrate all things Irish. It began in New York City with immigrants from Ireland for the first time honoring their religious patron saint at the Crown and Thistle Tavern 264 years ago today. But finally, it's also our puppy, Princess Marilyn's first birthday. So happy birthday, Marilyn. And with that, peace and love, y'all. Choose happiness and be excellent to each other.